So how often you have to, let's say, replace the pinch valves? I'm never sure are the pinch valves good or not.
Oh, here's the way to check is, and I'll show everybody when I pull the covers off. There's a couple little signs that I know during certain functions whether those pinch valves are working, especially with hard with these back behind here.
Those you see, you know, like on start, you know,
Yep,
like
those.
but those you cannot see, you know.
You cannot see, but there's certain functions that you watch and you know, oh, wait a minute. Like one is if in a wash, now you've already pulled your vessel lines, now you've pushed it all in here, and then you go from here, that's the next function, it pulls down. If you notice, they're not quite even half.
In
all of them.
Yeah.
And that's telling you, oh, it's trying to draw from here and the needle, which is sucking air. That's telling you, okay, the ones that the needles are running through is not working.
But let's say this often happen that pinch valve or rarer case.
The pinch valves, the newer ones, because they have the nylon, they'll last a lot longer.
You call this nylon, those?
Yeah,
this,
PVT or that, the plastic, because it doesn't conduct heat. And that was the issue with the older metal ones that had the metal, is it would conduct heat. And if you didn't have the cool chip installed, it would hold them shut. And what that did was it sort of put a permanent indentation in the tubing. So when I do a PM, I move them. Every 6 months, I move them and I'll show when you know,
to work on the other area, like not to like
so it's
bend
not in
them
the
too much.
same, so that indent isn't in the same position every single. So every 6 months, I'm moving a little this way, move this way. You know, just to keep switching them, and then that way, then you know, oh, they're in different positions, so then you're not worrying. At least you know that's one thing. You know that you can't isn't going to affect your reading, but the older ones and some of the new ones is where we run into issues where it's bursting. Now, usually a sign, depending on where the burst is telling me that it's backup pressure. It's getting backup pressure from somewhere. The most obvious thing I look at, the needles. That means one of those needles, one of those sampling positions, when all those needles are down, and you do your little 7.5 minute check before you pull everything apart, and if you see all of them are nice flow, but one is like spraying down the side.
That's restricted.
It's restricted, and it's going to create back pressure, and if these tubes are older, it's going to pop.
Explode, So
then,
how do you clean needles in the sonic
wire?
Wire?
I use
So
wire.
thin wire. Yeah. Do you have any available wire for those? I can get.
See, now I have a small piece that I use, and because you can't use the same wire that you can for this tubing. And I'll show you in my bag.
It's not the same diameter.
Yeah, it's a lot thicker. The needles are thinner. So I have a different guitar string for that one. But it's good to have. Two different types. The thickest type gauge guitar string, and you want a thinner one. And if you have a needle, you can use that to see how well. And sometimes it's usually a piece of septum.
Is it C string or G?
See, I don't play guitar, so I play
the tiniest one on the last one on the.
Well, unless you're playing bass, isn't that heavier wires? So you need that. But I have the two wires, and I'll show you the two differences.
You know those things you cannot find in the manual. That's why I'm asking you.
And that's why.
You are lucky only doing the 4300, you know, like you are special, you know, take care about 10 different. So you have all kind of paper. That's the diamond one I made that. This is E. This is stone E producer.
This is good for going down the needle.
Oh, okay.
This is that one right there.
Yeah. Yeah, our customers barely do any PM on 4800, you know. It's hard to convince them, you know. You have to be done at least once a year.
Oh, yeah, see, they didn't realize, especially when it's heavy, those ones using a lot. Here's a needle. See? Now, you probably could go a little thicker on the wire, but just so happen, I always do this way, if you want to push the piece out. There's like a piece of stuff. Probably could go quite a bit bigger. It just so happened that that's what I was able to get a hold of. So that you could probably go a little bit, so wherever that spring is, you want to go a size or two more.
And for the line?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
This has string, you know, right? But also these are string, right?
Yeah, well, the other
Derramó agua. Derramó agua. Mucho inyectó.
Dentro de